The finale of our Derek chauvinistic resident wolf is today, someone I'm really going to miss after pulling a masterful performance over the last 2 videos, giving us an astounding 42 innocents arrested, 74 minorities schlumped, 32 bribes accepted, 67 he was reaching for weapons, 50 total years dealt out for minor drug offenses, and 114 abuses of power. It all ends today as we enshrine ourselves as the biggest scumbag. After getting bodied by Bloody Mary, nuts to the face included in the assault package deal she delivered at no extra cost, we realized that the incel.com peruser wasn't the big bad after all, and it's the crooked man who's calling the shots. For the first time ever, I'm tasked with protecting and serving this community, so are we up to the task? Can we take down the midlife crisis 40-year-old unmarried aunt, establishing peace and freedom for all in the streets of Fabletown? You know, if you're rich at least.
Then I'll pick the blasted lock!
Whatever the case, let's go smoke some crack off Colin's absolute dumpy and play The Wolf Among Us on Crack the finale. I wake up in my chair in a room that looks like it's about to get the almighty roast in a new Hotel Hell episode, following a blood trail until Bloody Mary shows up, and for a second having me thinking that I was a journalist in the middle of Iraq, waking up from the nightmare to Dr. Swinehart, who was enamored by the hollow tips. I got my bone marrow making its debut apparent. Hey look, Snow, I'm the Shredder. But I eventually said it, almost turning into wolf form from the pain it brings. Doctor says it should be fine. What is it with doctors and Telltale games? They'll look at you like this. Yeah, it should be fine to me. All look in place. Colin lets the doctor know he's shit at his job and that he'd rather let medieval doctors drill a hole into his skull to let the spirits out than take an aspirin prescribed by him, and Raging Snow, who tells him to get his money up and buy a glamour, or she's gonna skin his ass and put his hide in a tanner. The doctor finishes the operation and tells Snow if she wants to keep me, she'll need to feed me every day, keep me clean, and neuter me if my horniness crosses the threshold, talking about me like I'm a dog or something.
Really, nigga? Really, nigga?
You know what I mean. I decide the best way to recover from liver surgery is to have it go through toxicosis anyway from liver poisoning before Snow lets me know it's Niagara Falls down there. But before I can distort her in the innocent minority maneuver.
Yeah, you were really fucked up, man.
Really,
you look like
nigga?
when you take an action figure and bend its limbs the wrong way.
Colin asks if he needs to switch sides yet, as this entire operation seems out of our pay grade. Snow then deduces that he's either invincible or desperate, and considering the fact it was Crane they wanted to save. Yeah, I don't think he was desperate. After figuring out how big a threat the crooked man is, Snow decides it's best to do this the right way. What do you mean, the right way? Colin stands up for me, thank you, my brother, but I'm still confused, Snow. What do you mean by that?
So, starting now, we do everything cut and dried, by the book, straight as an arrow.
What? No!
You can't do this to me.
How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair.
The breaking point was me turning into a were. Hold on, was she species shaming me? She sounds like she's species shaming you. What? No, that's unfair, Snow. Yeah, Bigby has the right to not be discriminated against. Yeah, fuck you, racist. Doesn't even make sense. Yeah, to a racist. I tell Snow what I did was strictly necessary. I had no choice.
Well, if that's the case, please explain to Colin why ripping Gren's arm off was necessary.
He's had enough!
He was still resisting. Fortunately, Colin comes to my rescue. Snow then comes after Colin and says pigs should stay on the farm. I can't let that happen. If I don't stand up to my pig brothers, I'll be the next guy sent to Siberia. Snow gets a call. Well, I do, but Snow thinks that she's entitled to monitor my phone calls now, as she's really serious about the ethics crackdown and says Narissa's waiting for me in my office. As I get going to take a tactical jerk, just in case she's still taking house calls, I reassure Collins he ain't going nowhere. He'll look human enough to me. In today's episode, I assume we're gonna be revenanting the first sheep we see. I shall await with bated breath. I ignore every urge my body bestowed upon me and somehow keep my sight at eye level as my manhood is quickly questioned. Before I tell her, nah, don't worry, I won the fight, I offer her a cigarette and
Huff and puffs.
Alright, get your dropped your species for some dick-looking ass out of my face before I huff and puff your dress off like it was made of straw. After whipping out her own Toblerone of cigarettes, I thank her for guiding me to the open arms, but says she can't say much. Well, you better figure out how to say it faster. There are some innocent minorities that need the 6 beers deep in a 12-pack to the wife attack, so unless you're offering yourself as tribute, you better get over that spell quick. This line got her thinking as she implicates her friends, saying, no, never mind, her friends are dead. I should also look after my own friends as they seem to be in danger. My paltry number of brain cells has her ready to give up and leave, but I compliment her ribbon before.
Do you like it?
I understand. You like it rough, don't you? Well, let's get rid of that pesky ribbon and...
No! These lips are sealed!
What?
You can't! Just stay back!
After acting like a recently transitioned woman whose dad just turned hostile, I back off and understand no BDSM today, comforting her and letting her know that no one is gonna take that ribbon off. Unless, of course, it's the killer. I haven't really been able to sub him yet. I reassure her it's only Snow, but she makes me promise I don't tell anyone about what she told me today, and I pinky her before Snow walks in on us, looking like I just got done pinkying her profusely. Snow, after giving me the stank eye, what can I say? I'm a TCLR subscriber. I can't keep the women off me. Lets me know she has a lead as Beauty just called activating the sleeper agent who says I should go to my next endeavor post-haste. Snow asks if she told me anything, and remembering my promise from earlier, she makes me promise I don't tell anyone about what she told me today, and I pinky her. I tell Snow everything that Narissa told me. I tell Snow that Beauty got a loan from the crooked man and make my way up as I can already hear the divorce lawyers hitting the gritty. I open the door to a hostile beast. What did I do to you, you fucking beast? You already know I didn't hit. You can have Beauty in all her convexity. I'm here on strictly business. He gets mad that I didn't tell him I saw Beauty back in episode 1. Before I tell him I'm not fucking around, I either get let in or Federal Bureau of Investigation is getting a call about a suspicious man with a turban carrying multiple C4s who I saw walk into this apartment. This gets him to comply as he lets me in, and Beauty tells me to just excuse them for a second.
One little thing. You want to keep fighting about that, or do you want to try?
We'll talk.
Sorry, it's...
They come out and I say their house looks awfully pricey.
What do you mean by that?
Listen here, you lumbering wildebeest. Ain't no way you took out debt from a loan shark just to upkeep a fancy lifestyle, right?
Didn't know what else to do, so...
Oh god, it's true. As I walk around looking like I just took an aspirin from Dr. Swinehart after hearing the most stupid, most disgusting statement that completely discredits Charles Darwin's natural selection theory, Beast lets me know his valid concerns about how snitches get stitches, but I quickly remind him the crooked man's got multiple shooters spinning the block constantly, and if I don't capture him, they might confuse your buffalo-looking ass for an actual wild buffalo and start trophy hunting. This gets them to confess that they couldn't live in poverty, and as they try explaining that student loan debt for some fancy furniture is a great financial decision, the phone starts ringing.
Hi there, you've reached Beauty.
And Beast.
And we're out doing something fabulous.
Let me just,
Mr. Beast, this is a thorough investigation. Every phone call needs to be monitored. Please step back.
Hit the beep and we'll get back to you as soon as... humanly possible. Beep! That fucking message. I'm gonna come down there and bash your heads in with that machine if I have to call again and hear that fucking message one more time.
You idiots, you've got about 5 more days with your kneecaps, so tell me what's going on before it's too late. After the Disney Channel climax scene, they tell me about the Lucky Pond as the backdrop for their money laundering operations where the main cast of 500-pound sisters were hanging out. And they even had the woodsman's axe, which Bloody Mary almost used to turn me into a wall mount. After that, Beast told me he is under the employ of the crooked man in the butcher shop where he moves around packages, and the only butchery they do is of the good name of meat shops. They start talking about how they shouldn't be living like this, having to take out massive debts to live well above their means in New York City where a gram is actually $40 unironically. They call me a broke ass right to my face as I tell him to come back to me when the crooked man repossesses Beauty to be his headliner at the Pudding and Pie. I decide on the Lucky Pond as Beast tells me there is some differences to of choices in Telltale games and to make sure to replay the segment again later. They ask if there's anything I can do to hopefully, potentially, maybe even kill the Crooked Man, but not kill the Crooked Man. No sir, they would never resort to violence. But I tell them I will. Repossess the Crooked Man's debts after I deal with them.
Has freed us!
Oh, I wouldn't say free. More like under new management.
I get to the lucky pond where Toad is trying to haggle Jack for a torn coat.
Like, why are you... I've seen you take a torn purse for a tenner.
Yeah, but I also got her phone number. I don't want your phone number.
Oh, come on, that's not very nice. I would personally love Toad's phone number. I mean, look at him. That's a catch for any species. I ignore the fact that a 2-foot Toad is walking down the streets of New York City as he gives me a speech about capitalism being theft. Well, you could always go to the Soviet Union. Oh, wait. This sets off Toad, who spills everything about this shady operation, and now the Crooked Man, my biggest stop as of this moment, is venture capitalizing illegal funds from innocent fables. I try to sneak in, asking him for a loan, but Jack says I'm white and probably have a credit score of 850 at birth, and calls me out for trying to masterfully bait him. I tell Toad to leave the coat, it's evidence for the investigation, and even offer to buy it from him.
Keep your money, Sheriff. I've no patience for charity.
Listen here, you pregnant amphibian. I offer to buy the coat for you, the entire reason you're here, and because it's me, you think it's a handout? Somebody check what year we're in, because I think the Jim Crow laws applied to some capacity to carnivores. I tell Captain Vietnam I know Rudy's axe is here as I try to link that to the Crooked Man, but he feigns ignorance and says they've never even seen the woodsman's axe. I ask him one more time just to ensure that I'm hearing him right, and he says yes, if I find a giant mystical axe, I can use him to de-stress my giant mystical cock. It's literally right here, in Times New Roman and everything. It literally says it belonged to the woodsman. It's even got its entire history. Did you think I was too stupid to read? Bring that bussy here. I get to whipping out the Big B Big C, but he tells me that Jersey owns the place and he's the one I should talk to. Fortunately, I'm just in time as the Jersey Devil and the woodsman walk in arguing about said axe. As I begin to read this middle-aged sex is a foreign concept, as Miranda writes, he begins mocking me and my failures the last 2 episodes as he starts to believe his own horseshit spewing from his mouth and says he can take me single-handedly. Punch. Okay, the Slap Fight Championship Series is yours if you want it, but he wants my bussy instead, and despite my evasive maneuvers, he won't let me escape as I decide it's time to try and diplomatically reason with him, first by showing him the last known location of Woody's axe before growing our camaraderie stronger, which leaves him comfortable enough to show me the real him, the one that put that One Direction on full blast after making fun of it to his 5th grade friends. It was everybody. He shows us the secret back room where all the valuables are kept, and as a thank you, I decide to help him close up shop as I give him a makeover to help him lose his virginity at the age of 50 until Woody shows him the axe that was found on his premises. As he finally starts seeing this situation our way, and after what I can only assume is a spell that'll make the furniture start flowing, he tells us we need the magic shard in order to find the Crooked Man's house, which keeps changing what door it's behind every night like a professional 20-year-old sugar baby. He gives us directions to the mirror shard, but I already know it's at the cut above, and so I thank him for his service as he sends his condolences about the murdered hookers. I decide to act like a nice guy and give the woodsman a huff and puff.
Shitty brand.
Not as shitty as your life expectancy. Instead of shitting on huff and puffs, why don't you huff and puff down a treadmill before heart disease sweeps your cardiovascular system? After giving me a pep talk so motivational, I ask what he's gonna do now, and he gives me the vague answer like this was the end of season episode for a show that doesn't know if it'll get another. I get to the cut above. Cutting above what? Salmonella victims? Bro's got 4 sodas, his meat looks like he's harvesting zombies from The Walking Dead, and he's charging people for this? The butcher walks out, and after I tell him that he makes pink sauce look like an FDA-approved consumable, I ask where the shard for the magic mirror is. He tells me to go down to the Lucky Pond. I let him know I was just there, and let's just say that Horseface won't be chewing bubble gum any... Okay, wait. What type of threat is that? After that lackadaisical attempt at a threat, the butcher makes his escape. I sneak into the Schmeat locker filled with what I can only assume to be the cows that survived the rabies long enough to make it to the slaughter as I walk around like the main villain in any horror film. Peekaboo, I hit him with the take his breath away maneuver, preventing him from speaking and then using that to indict him to more violence because he won't answer my question. He tells me his story on how the Crooked Man's goons took advantage of his kindness to muscle their way into using his meat store as a front, but I'm skeptical little considering all the cuts out there. I'm assuming you took out a loan you couldn't repay from the crooked man. After our conversation about his dog food, I opened the garage door he tried to hide, walking into a 6th grade science class with a whiteboard, ingredients, and slave labor. And he claims he had no idea about the slave labor and he was muscled out. What this idiot fails to tell me is that he warned the fuckers. I was coming, giving them the time to erase the chalkboard, and he claims,
"Where were you when they took this place from me?"
"Do I look like Batman to you? Am I supposed to be omniscient? Yes, that failing butcher shop just got forced into being a front for the crooked man. I'm on my way. I know our system favors the rich and powerful, but you would think Snow would take terrorists stole my store from me and are trying to bring the fall of Fabletown a little more seriously at least. This was at least the place where the glamours are coming from, and that failing to repay loans gets you a role in the reenactment of the Black Plight pre-1865. I ask him what their glamour process is, and
You want to talk T-bones? That I can do.
yeah, no, bro. No, you can't, bro. I've seen what's outside. If you want to talk dog food, I'll still pass you over, considering I'd rather gift my dog dysentery from Magic Johnson than the shit you're selling outside. The crooked man's family house sigil is apparently some guy on a Wheel of Fortune torture device, so if you didn't want to look like the mustache-twirling bad guy, you're doing a great job. I find a dirty coat, but it's too small to fit this fat ass's frame. Definitely from sampling his own food, that stalls all metabolic processes, no doubt fucking up his weight. The coat is cranes as I see some of the funds he robbed from Fabletown for a bonus to the police force. Yeah, that's what I thought. If you don't want to see what a human T-bone steak looks like, you better keep your mouth shut, bitch. This fucker was still imagining his dirty socks as Snow even after she told him she'd rather have a train run on her by German shepherds than even brush up against Crane's scrotum. If we ever want to solve Fabletown's money issues, just get Snow an OnlyFans account and watch as Crane single-handedly funds our operations. And finally, we get the magic mirror shard, and I'm on my way as this balding peaked at track day in the 5th grade looking ass vegan butcher gets pissed at me for doing my job, despite his best attempts at thwarting me and how I'm still really the big bad wolf.
Oh, DD!
He laments at Bloody Mary's strap-on making a T-bone into his rectum, but I tell him I'll handle it and to sit tight and maybe pick up a butchering course on YouTube or something in the meanwhile. I whip out a cigarette because, what, they're gonna turn the steaks bad? Sucking an AIDS victim's dick is probably the healthier option than eating this garbage. I get back to the business office where Bluebeard and Toad are going Shaq and Kobe on Snow's ass until I get there, but she's in the boss bitch phase in her life, getting ready to lube up the patriarchy and fire a single widow of 3 2 weeks away from getting evicted.
Please.
Look what I found.
Seems your dog wants a biscuit.
That's like Bluebeard's my boy. Until the actual boy of this series flies in and fixes the magic mirror. I let her know the current situation on how we're gonna have an easier time finding the rabbit hole Alice jumped through than the crooked man's moving doorway. I go to help Buffkin until Bluebeard acting like he wants a word with me despite the fact he burned all of Crane's evidence, but he's bankrolling our entire operation here at Fabletown Industries. So I can't do shit to him yet, but I'll be back for you.
I do so enjoy our talks. I'll wait with bated breath.
Buffkin asks what happened to this shard. It's getting treated like the runt of the litter, and I tell him Bloody Mary used it as her vibrator, which explains it. The mirror and Mary do not have really good history together after all. After I leave him to a therapy session with the magic mirror, I'm told to deal with Toad, but we can't pay him for the car I destroyed when the woodsman suplexed me out of a window episode 1. I'm on Toad's side, honestly, but he did not take my offer to buy the donkey skin coat earlier, so this really is on him now. In any case, I really did break his car, damage his home, and cause irreversible psychological damage to his son, so I can at least give him the money Crane had pocketed, and with jubilation he accepts, and hits the tap dance finisher before walking out as chipper as ever to Snow's discontent. I tell Bluebeard it's time for our talk, but his bated breath isn't enough. He's a businessman with crooked, corrupt businessman things to do, and after reminding me he's essentially our boss, he makes his way out, leaving the business office staff to contemplate why on earth the crooked man wanted the hookers killed. Buffkin tells us the mirror is repaired. With so many episodes since the mirror broke, I can't wait. Not till Snow gets her question in first as we see more fan service for the comics. And then Bloody Mary notices the mirror using Psychic, which is super effective against the mirror, as Buffkin explains to him what happened while dropping mad bars as his tradition. Finally, it's my turn. Mirror, mirror, I'm sick of dykes. Show me what Snow's titties look like. Well, can't sexually harass my superiors, I guess, so to save my job, I'll ask another. Mirror, mirror, the pics don't do me justice. Show me the best porno to really bust it. Alright, final question. Mirror, mirror, I'm ashamed of my stick. Show me what awaits an average TCLR subscriber for his dick.
See how I'm all clean, glistening and shit. That's hygiene, nigga. You can call me the health inspector.
Finally, we use the mirror for the Crooked Man as we catch the moment his door just changes and I'm on my way as snow rains on my parade and says I have to bring the Crooked Man back alive. Finally, it's time. Making my way to Central Park, breaking down the door like a Kit Kat and jumping in half expecting to enter a Doctor Who episode as a cripple shows up as the first line of defense. He's here to take me to the Crooked Man and I shake his hand knowing he could get fired if he fails at his job. So being the average TCLR subscriber, I treat my tour guide with as much respect as the CEO. He tries begging me to turn back because the Crooked Man is the only man who cares for the strays who can't get their money up, which makes sense, but I'm still going in since my donors want me to take care of him. I wait up for him and let him introduce me as we see many familiar ops, flabbergasted I've made it all the way here. And despite the numbers advantage, Tweedle dumbass gulps audibly, knowing at my scrotum's assuredly enlarged size since I walk right into the ops' base without any heat. We finally meet the big bad, the Crooked Man. Bro, your face mask has started melting. You want me to come back later, or? Looking like he tried to keep his eyes peeled one too many times and has to deal with droopy eye syndrome for the rest of his life. Looking like he's suffering from Graves' disease. Not even to mention his nose, looking like he joked about Mike Tyson stutter right in front of him. He gives me a seat, but I pick the badass option and smoke in his own room. Oh my goodness. It's time for the climax, the peak moment of dopamine production, the finding out what toy you got with your Kinder Egg, removing the curtain to find out who was sucking your dick. It was a dude. I tell the Crooked Man this you and start smoking his pack as Stan Lee whips out the silver bullets. I decide the Huff and Puff is bargain bin cigs, getting a gun trained to my head for the disrespect before Big Daddy whips out the belt. I list his charges and he acts innocent, but that isn't very effective considering his mustache is still at evil twirling length. He admits that the murder were made by an employee of his and he will deal with it himself. I've heard that line before every time I commit a war crime. Fuck no, he's facing justice, so hand him over. Now for the choice where you try to find out who did it. I personally forgot who the killer was. Considering these 4 options, it is pretty obvious. Was it the Crooked Man? No, he just gets someone else to do it for him. The Tweedles? Nah, they're his debt collectors that try to sell debtors as prostitutes. It could be Bloody Mary, I guess, but she seems to be the trap card, the ace up the sleeve, the level 90 starter after you sacrificed your other level 15 Pokemon to full heal him after it faints. Using her to kill hookers is like sending the Navy SEALs to stop a bank robbery. Now Georgie, the man who had the prostitutes at arm's length under control, seems the most likely option because of convenience, and he was the person closest to them. So it would just make the most sense. Hey Georgie, take the ribbons off or I make a post about you on r/neckbeard. A reliable threat to get him to do his dirty work. This man admits to killing them in 4K, might I add, like he's untouchable with a smug smile, just like Joan did in the last Walking Dead video. Crooked Man says Georgie misinterpreted his instructions. Okay, that makes everything better. Sorry for the troubles, I'll be going right now. If you need me to repair the door I kicked down, call up the business office. We can use the money set aside for Toad's car. Crooked Man gives up Georgie as the sacrifice, who has the audacity to blame the Crooked Man for his crystal clear instructions.
This is right, bollocks this!
After teaching all the Americans in the room the British pronunciation of scrotum, Georgie asks the others for help. Damn, the walls have an incredible color palette. Bigby's dick is so voluptuous. He lets me take Georgie, but I'm going for the home run play. You're coming with me. Might even be able to fix your silly putty eyes in prison. He decides to show his hand and... Hey, would you look at that? I was wondering where the wife of 5 trying out a new look at 40 was. They hit me with a surprise attack, the WWE with a Jackie Chan finish. I get jumped, having to go 1v5 as the Crooked Man and Bloody Mary make their escape. Getting caught in the Tweedles' trap as Georgie tries to Portland my ass, but I swing last second as he friendly fires before swiper no swiping the knife and prep Georgie for an anatomy lesson. The Wendigo wants smoke and I give it to him, breathing in his face, causing his enlarged nose to react negatively while the hooker and her man escapes. I hit the Native American monster with the US Manifest Destiny special, super effective against anything native, and while I'm not sure if Tweedle is alive, note that this is a Telltale game and he's technically a determinant character, so it's safe to assume he's dead. I get to the dump truck that men have fought wars over as she makes her escape with Georgie, but I get there just in time, cutting away to limit the budget they had to spend animating my transformation. I chase them across the city of New York that has a population of about 40 million as a 7-foot werewolf, and while some might say it's hypocritical considering I just told Toad next time I catch him without a glamour, he's getting sent straight to Siberia, I counter with, I'm a cop. Who's gonna stop me? These hops! Bigby is playing for the wrong Timberwolves. Eventually I have to let the crooked man leave as she throws me off the roof, but it's fine. There's no way she charges a 10-foot wolf, right? There's no way he stays in front of a moving car, right?
He's not moving.
Keep going!
Eventually, I try to scout out the perimeter, and just like Assassin's Creed, I see them walk back into the one place I would find them in. Good thing I find some clothes that are the exact same type, color, shape, size, and hue for me. After doing my God-given duty of protecting and serving the community by robbing their Abercrombie & Fitch stash, I walk into Georgie trying to get one last sucky before he catches the business end of my blicky. He laments at my dumbassery for not going after the mastermind, but I tell him I'm coming for both of you. These police brutalities are getting handed out like Girl Scout cookies to an obese Walmart employee. Vivian steps in and that dump truck has me mesmerized, so I back off and put in my Rizzer training from my Hogwarts Legacy video. Getting her to side with me against Georgie too, saying he had to do it or else the crooked man would come after Vivian. He tells me Vivian is the original ribbon wielder and that the others are just cheap copies. It was either taking Vivian's ribbon and saving them or letting the IRL OnlyFans models take the hit. They wanted to open a fine, law-abiding establishment where they could sell off their sex slaves in peace after swamping them in debt, but the crooked man showed up and butcher-shopped them, forcing them into his operation. If I really wanted to save the girls, then why don't I take the decision to take off Vivian's ribbon if it's so bet I've killed for less. She decides to put the figurative gun to her head, lamenting at how everyone has control of her, and she wants to take her own life into her own hands for once. 5 seconds later after that decision, she Louis the 18th herself from her PTSD guilt. You happy now, you Scottish tattoo canvas? I tell him to get up, but showing me his innards, I realize that's not gonna happen. Not the person from this duo whose innards I'd want to rearrange, but I guess it's better than nothing. I agree to give the crooked man the same treatment once I find him as me and Georgie come to terms, giving me the crooked man's location, and he asks me to finish the job to prevent him from suffering.
What? And by the way, me?
Break the police ethics code? I protect and serve, my friend. I can't do that. In any case, hope dying slowly is fun, bitch. I get to the Metalworks building and bust in as it seems Sneeko made another collage of people who hurt his feelings in typical fashion. He wanted to fight me, but was too pussy to step up. So he sent Bloody Mary, who came out of nowhere with a teleportation jutsu before winding up and hitting me like she was Popeye after downing a can of spinach. Crooked Man says he's leaving me in the capable care of Bloody Mary. How thoughtful of him as I try to sneak one in, but she's too quick. She tries to take off my pants and steal my semen, but my mother did teach me to never stick my dick in crazy, forcing her off. Now it's the first time I've actually listened to that ruling, but it sounded cool in the moment. Anyways, 2 minutes later, I'm on a balance beam for some reason as she starts giving me minor paper cuts, which while stinging do little to stop this TCLR subscriber. We get to see her final form looking like the victim of a Taliban attack after placing C4s in a window store. The problem is her defensive positioning of her glass. She has them all over her body except for her genitalia, tits, and ass. If I grab her by the tits, I'm immediately losing my Twitter account. Grab her by the butt and I'll have to deal with actual policemen. And finally, I'm not Donald Trump, so the third option is unavailable to me. She has me in a chokehold, giving me the opportunity I need and suplexing her ass off the lava works. Take in, I didn't touch her inappropriately just yet. I enter TCLR subscriber mode and she uses her shadow clones as I'm left trying to duck, weave, rope, and dope her until she dogpiles on me, forcing me to enter my final form. I'm a doggo. The goodest fucking doggo you've ever seen! I huff and puff as hard as I can, blowing her even harder than a veteran hooker in Houston when James Harden played there. Before we're left one-on-one as she has the audacity to jump at me directly.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
You can see here there's no blood around my mouth, nothing at all. It's about as clean as a dog's could be. You come to right before I split her in half, I have blood. Where did it come from? Did I stop time and eat out snow when she was making it rain? How did blood even come out? I mean, she's made of glass, evidently. And somehow my clothes are all stacked neatly into a pile like I just prepared to bone someone I picked off the club floor. In any case, you're fucked now, crooked boy.
Give me one good reason not to rip you apart right now.
Well, to be fair, that is a very good reason. He says he wants a trial to gaslight the community, and being the rich son of a bitch he is, I'm fairly certain he could pull it off. That's what I was going to do anyway, because as Bluebeard demonstrated in the last episode, I just want a treat from Snow. Now put the gun down.
I think I'd rather hold on to it, if you don't mind.
Hey! We get back to the entire hood waiting for me as I walk in, massive logs swinging side to side, shattering the earth, defeating Bloody Mary, the Tweedles, a Wendigo, and this dude who looks like a child drew a nose, messed up, and drew another nose right under. Snow's absolutely kerfuffled beyond belief that I didn't murder this guy the second I found him. Everyone is advocating to throw this crook down the wishing well, but Snow wants democracy and human rights and all that other foreign shit brought in by brown immigrants, so we have to play by her rules. Although we can't set up a proper trial, so she's only feigning democratic rule, this dude's getting about as fair a trial as an anti-Stalinist during the Great Purge. She starts listing out the crooked man's charges: assault, murder. He then chimes in saying he didn't actually murder those women and it was actually Georgie. The town asks where the Scotsman is and I tell them he fucked around and found out. Seriously, everyone in that fight had superpowers. A Wendigo, impenetrable blubber, and Georgie running around with a knife like that. Fedora was gonna give him gentlemanly powers or whatever. Running around with that knife acting like he wouldn't get stabbed. In any case, he is charged with murder, inciting violence, assault against an officer again, using my power to give him more jail time, forced prostitution, fraud, extortion, racketeering, illegal sale of magical artifacts, playing the new Harry Potter game, rape, questioning YouTube's decision, showing nudity on Twitch without being an attractive woman, the Holocaust, and calling out attractive women for having sex on stream. He calls me out on the last couple.
Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
With the last 3 felonies I mentioned, I'm fairly certain we can get him on firing squad. We decide against the democratic will of the people to let him speak. It kinda makes you think. Wouldn't letting him speak now be considered totalitarian? He says they were acting on his behalf, but misinterpreted the orders. You know how it goes with subordinates. You tell them to get the Jews, and they just gas the Jews. This gets Lawrence angry, but the crooked man doesn't speak clownfish, telling him and everybody you could get the same experience he had on his wedding night for $5.99 an hour. Beauty and Beast chime in. No surprise there. If the crooked man dies, they're now debt-free. He goes on about helping Auntie Greenleaf get her tree back and use that to help other shit, I know where this is going. We get called out for attempting arson, but she was working for the crooked man. What do you mean it wasn't her fault? She worked for a supervillain. You don't just fall into that. Finally, with the trial on the line, Snow gives a speech about how he's just extorting you and we are the ones who really care about you. I mean, Butcher. Bigby only assaulted you because he loves you. Gren, he ripped your arm to pieces, maimed your ass because he wanted to be your second arm. Somebody to rely on. Beast, Bigby only gave your wife the filet mignon up the uterus because he wanted to remind you that he'll always be right here, right inside of you. Also, if we convict him, everyone's debts are wiped clean. After checkmating him, devastating him with our elite bribes, he asks us for the source. Of course we have a source, Bigby. Bigby? Wait, I was actually supposed to find evidences. He doesn't believe the confession is evidence enough because number 1, Georgie is dead and only I heard it. Plus, when accounting for my history...
What are you talking about?
He also claims that if he's to be held responsible for his employees' actions, White should be responsible for mine. Before listing off every law I've skirted in the past 15 years, cumulatively, it would probably get me about 300 life sentences minimum if I get convicted. I mean, all I can say is I'd be the greatest wide receiver Fox River Penitentiary's ever seen. Also, I can't even lie, Crooked Man goes stupid with this line.
We lashed our ropes to this diseased world, and ever since, which one of us has been there for you? Who filled your lives with the promise of more? Who was there while they idly played in their towers, judging you, treating you as mindless children, too stupid to command your own destiny? Without me, who will pay your rent when you're on the verge of eviction? Who will dare challenge their brutality when it leaks to our dear citizens? Who will protect you from the big bad wolf?
I'm not gonna lie, that was some heat. So hot, in fact, that Narissa had to come out of nowhere and hits her with the sexual assault after 20 years allegations. And considering the predicament we're in, we decide to take her words as fact, even though it's only her word against him. Nope, it's another 5 hookers to the rescue.
This is the clearest video I've ever seen. This is the most HD shit ever. This is 4K! How did they get you in 4K?
We start arguing what punishment is befitting the crime, and of course the people in debt want him eliminated, while the non-indebtors want him just in prison where he can still collect his checks. Everyone is arguing for a different course of action, and I say let's leave it up to the democratic will of the people. Bluebeard convinces them to give the vote to me, assuredly because of the high likelihood I'll abuse the prisoner and murder him, which I think about, but I decide I should.
Not this way!
Alright, well it seems like the lanky 8th grader after a growth spurt caught me lacking. But considering his body mass is held together by threads and sinew instead of muscle, I easily break free and expose myself to the entire town. I decide it's probably best for me to lock him up to try to increase my standing to the public as Auntie Greenleaf tells us to let her cook. After which we get to this bug, which is crazy. I wonder which of these 4 choices would lead to the optimal outcome for my playthrough. I reload the game only to find that the Crooked Man is going to be spending his next debt collection on bird feed instead of more hookers to expand his thriving collection of strip clubs. Bugcatcher got his job back.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for.
As we cut to me cutting in front of the line where all the now unemployed Crooked Man's lackeys are waiting for a government stimmy pack. I try to rizz up Snow one last time, but she's too busy trying to fix the corrupt system, so I leave before my past is brought to light. Afterwards, Bluebeard comes out of nowhere, and I think it's safe to assume he stole my girl. Of course, I couldn't compete with Lee's urbanness, but it still hurts nonetheless. As I'm browsing the tallest buildings in NYC, Colin walks in, and as I tell him to hide or our corruption will get exposed. Damn! Colin's back in a fatty! He about to have me acting up like... I get outside to give Bugcatcher his keys and... Toad? I should have known my choices wouldn't matter. Why the fuck is this 3-foot toad after I gave him money I rightfully stole going to the farm? TJ simping as usual wants me to give Snow a special bug, oblivious to the fact that the Crooked Man's already about 6 feet deep. Mr. Toad asks me where Colin is. After all, if him and his son are gonna get deported to Siberia, Colin should be there too, and I say no. Colin is a revolutionary to the bone. And then I tell him me no hablo inglés for no further questions. The truck runs off as I decide a consolation prize is in order as I try to remove the image of Bluebeard, completely limiting Snow's diaphragmatic movements from my mind as Narissa still doesn't want to take off the ribbon. Mainly because of post-traumatic stress disorder, but I also admitted I like the ribbon twice, so I'll take that as a hint. She tells me about the plan with Faith and Lily where they were going to escape forced prostitution, but the others went too far and stole some photos for dirt on the Crooked Man's allies. They immediately had to call in professionals to finish them off, getting the people who got Jeffrey Epstein to commit suicide by stabbing himself in the chest 4 times before shooting himself in the back of the head. This all spooked Narissa, who was the one who told on her girls to the Crooked Man, thinking Georgie could be reasoned with, and then he murdered the other 2. I touch her arm because a girl in emotional distress is essentially free. JFK taught me that.
That sounds like the gentle knock of a vulnerable teenage girl. Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys. What?
That means you didn't hear the crooked man order Georgie to kill your friends. She starts telling me to believe all women even though there were no corroborators to her story like she said. So I mean, I really lose here if I snitch myself, considering we probably turned an innocent man into a crow without due process. And honestly, thinking back on it, he might have actually been innocent, and you know, it probably wouldn't have taken too long to ask the other 5 hookers what happened, but in any case, if I told the town, well, it wouldn't go over too well, so I decided to keep my mouth shut. Finally, she explains how she's the one who put the head on my doorstep to give me the first of Blue's clues, setting me on this path. Finally, she gives me a pep talk on how it was me and my decisions that finally gave Fabletown and the Strays their justice, even though the crooked man still might not have actually ordered the murder, so let's put a pin on that justice. She gives me a line reminiscent of Faith's at the start of the game, but I'm too busy staring at that bootay until it finally registers and I decide to run after her, ending the wolf. Amugas? If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe to not miss out on future crackery, and check out these other videos linked down below in the pinned comment, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.